When it comes to Halloween specials from sitcoms that you should probably watch, the one that probably doesn't come to mind is Clueless. Based on the 1995 film, the 1996 to 1999 TV show is probably what you would call Clueless in an alternate universe. While things are the same, they are a little bit different and often a little bit lackluster. Let's just say it's not as good as the movie, but there are parts of it that are worth a watch, like this episode I'm going to talk about today. As the title of the episode itself suggests, this episode of Clueless focuses on the character of Murray, who is often more of a side character on the show as he was in the 1995 film. In this episode, we find out that Murray has become a little obsessed with slasher movies and obsessed with Halloween, so much so that he is trying to prank Cher and Dion early on in the episode. They get upset, and rightfully so, but he sees it as more of you're kind of uptight and not getting that it's a funny joke. The main bulk of the episode focuses on this haunted house that Murray is planning, and he becomes very obsessed with it being perfect. So much so that he becomes hard to work with. The people who are hired don't want to work with him. The people who are trying to help him out, who are his friends, don't want to work with him, and he's just become unbearable. Soon after they get everything set up for the haunted house, things start to go awry, and this is kind of where the slasher-esque part of the episode comes in, or the part of the episode that really parodies Scream and other slasher films of the time. We see a minor character named Marshall come in after trying to go fix something for the haunted house, and he has a knife in his back and he collapses. They say that he's dead, and they find a letter which says that all the rich kids are going to die, kind of akin to I Know What You Did Last Summer. After this, there's a flurry of activity, and characters kind of disappear or die one by one. We have, like, for example, one of their teachers, Coach Deemer, she ends up being strangled, I guess. I'm not really sure, and falls out, and she's there, and then Cher gets taken, Amber gets killed, Sean gets killed. One of the guest characters on the show, or two of the guest characters on the show, a cheerleader named Patty and the tech named Jason, also turn up dead. And eventually all that's left is Dion and Murray. After some kind of humorous back and forth regarding, how they're going to survive, the killer is revealed to actually be Sean, a character who we've previously thought had been killed by this masked killer. His reasons for doing all this are that, no one seems to notice him. He's just kind of like the best friend character. He's off to the side. And because no one seems to know his middle name. Eventually, he gets killed when Cher and Amber kind of pop up from nowhere and shoot him. And then he confesses to Murray this kind of heartwarming thing as he's dying. But it turns out, of course, that he's not actually dying and no one is dead. And this is a joke played on Murray in order to show him that he shouldn't be trying to scare people, that he shouldn't be so rude to other people, and that, playing pranks on people is not good. Now, you might be wondering why this episode is something that I really think you should watch, because it kind of seems, okay, it's a sitcom. They do, sitcom-esque things, somebody learns a lesson, and they go back to their lives, and perhaps this character does the same thing over again because they obviously didn't learn from that episode lesson that they learned in 20 minutes. But this episode, which is actually a two-parter, is good and worth a watch because of when it came out. This came out before things like Scary Movie. This came out before there was really an oversaturation of slasher movies, following Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. We had kind of an influx of horror movies, slasher films like Urban Legend Final Cut, as well as the return of a lot of slasher villains from the 80s, like Jason and Freddy and Michael, and more of their films. And then we saw maybe perhaps a few new villains come in different types of horror movies. And then, of course, getting parodied by the Scary Movie films. And so this was well before all of that. This aired in 1999. And it's just kind of this staple or this snapshot into pop culture of the time and how this you know, this renaissance was there, that we had become so involved with these films again. It had been over a decade since horror movies and slashers had prominence in pop culture. And here they were. And, we ourselves were becoming obsessed with them. Not so much the fact that we were going to prank our friends and kind of, terrorize them as Murray does, but that they were just so popular in our lives. So I think if nothing else, this is just a really good like look into what was popular at the time and how people were relating or becoming obsessed with these movies. Because I often find when you're not someone who was, living in that moment, you don't know how big things were. You can look it up, you can watch it, you can, be like, oh yeah, this was popular, but until you see all of the media surrounding it, including things like this, then you don't really understand. So I think like if you're looking for something that is, a little bit fun, a little bit nostalgic, and a little bit, very 90s, and you have, 40 minutes to spare, you know, watch this episode of Clueless. I think it'll be worth it.